The dining room smelled like lemon furniture polish and something else I couldn't name at first. Then I realized, judgment. My in-laws sat around the table like a jury that had already decided I was guilty. My husband sat beside me, his hand resting near mine on the table but not touching it, close enough to look supportive to everyone watching. His mother leaned forward, eyes sharp and focused directly on me. "We think it's time we all talked about your behavior," she said. My heart started hammering in my chest, but I refused to give them the reaction they clearly wanted. I just stared at the teacup sitting in front of me, watching steam rise from the surface. I wondered when exactly a simple family gathering had turned into a trial. That's when I understood the truth. They weren't here to understand my side of anything. They were here to correct me. To fix me. To make me fit their version of events. My name is Rachel, and that Sunday afternoon, I became the villain in a story I never agreed to be part of. They didn't want my answers or explanations. They wanted my compliance. My agreement. My surrender. Each accusation followed the same rhythm, like they'd practiced this. She's too emotional about small things. She forgets what people tell her. She overreacts to normal family conversations. And my husband sat there completely silent, letting every lie hang in the air without challenging a single one. The more they talked, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't spontaneous concern or a spur-of-the-moment intervention. This was scripted. Rehearsed. Perfected over time. When I finally looked up from my teacup and said absolutely nothing, my silence seemed to unnerve them more than any defense would have. His sister frowned, confused. His father cleared his throat awkwardly, clearly expecting tears or angry shouting. But I just smiled politely and took another sip of tea. The only thing that truly scares people who are certain of their narrative is someone who refuses to play their assigned part. When we left his parents' house, my husband turned to me in the car. "You embarrassed me in there," he said flatly. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "That seemed unfair to you." Just that one accusation. I realized something sitting in that passenger seat. He'd been building this story about me for months. At first, they were small corrections made in front of his family. Little comments like, "She gets overwhelmed pretty easily," or, "She didn't really mean it like that." Tiny statements that slowly redefined who I was in their minds. I'd noticed them, but I'd let them go, trusting he would eventually defend me when it mattered. That trust had been my first mistake. That night, lying awake while he slept, I started paying closer attention, not to what he said out loud, but to what he wrote in his text messages. It started quietly, almost innocently. "You made me look bad in front of my parents today." Just one simple text message sent after dinner one night. I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot and archived it in a new folder on my phone. Then another message came the next day, "You know how sensitive my mom is about these things." Screenshot. Archive. Then a third message, "You're twisting what happened again." Screenshot. Archive. By the end of that first week, I realized I was watching a clear pattern form. These weren't just messages. They were small, calculated attempts to rewrite what had actually happened in real time. He wasn't just texting me. He was creating his own documented version of the truth. And now, without him knowing it, I was documenting too. The less I argued back, the more he revealed. His text messages got longer. More confident. Almost like he was performing for an invisible audience. He started describing our private conversations like they were evidence, but only the parts that made him look patient and me look difficult. One message I'll never forget: "You really should try not to sound so defensive when they ask simple questions about our marriage." I remember staring at that sentence for a long time. I wasn't being defensive. I was being erased, piece by piece. And he was handing me the receipts himself, never realizing what I was doing with them. Every accusation he made in text form became another piece of evidence against the story he was building. When you stop arguing with someone, they start confessing without even knowing it. I didn't know there was a family group chat until his sister accidentally added me into it one afternoon. Suddenly my phone lit up with dozens of old messages I'd never seen before. Message after message of subtle gossip disguised as family concern. Rachel seems really withdrawn lately. Should we be worried? He's doing his absolute best dealing with her moods. I don't know how he stays so patient with everything. And scattered throughout were his calm, measured responses. She's just under a lot of stress right now, but I'm trying to help her through it. I took screenshots of every single message in that chat. Then I quietly left the group again without saying a word. Let them think I hadn't noticed. Let them believe I was oblivious. Silence became my camouflage. Evidence became my weapon. 2 weeks later, my husband told me his parents wanted to schedule a meeting. They want to clear the air, he said. Maybe with a family mediator present so everyone feels heard. His tone was confident, almost rehearsed. He genuinely believed he'd constructed a narrative strong enough to make me doubt my own memory and perception. I looked at him calmly. Sure, I said quietly. Let's clear the air completely. That was the very first time I saw uncertainty flash across his face. Just for a second, he looked like he wasn't sure this was going to go the way he'd planned. But then the confident expression returned, and he nodded. He had no idea what I'd been preparing. Every single night leading up to that mediation meeting, I organized my evidence. I created folders organized by date. I labeled every screenshot clearly. I arranged message chains in chronological order. Every accusation he'd made was paired with a timestamp proving what had actually happened. I didn't know if I'd end up using all of it, but I needed everything ready and accessible. When I finally finished, I sat back and looked at the evidence spread across my laptop screen. Hundreds of words written in his own hand, using his own carefully chosen framing. He had built an entire false version of me out of lies and manipulation. And I was about to let his own words burn that construction down to the ground. The mediator was a calm, professional woman who smiled politely and asked us both to share our perspectives. My husband went first. His performance was absolutely flawless. He sounded calm, logical, concerned. The perfect worried spouse dealing with an unstable partner. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't explain anything. I didn't defend myself or argue against his points. I simply opened the folder on my phone and slid it across the table. Text message after text message. Screenshot after screenshot from the family group chat. Each lie he'd just told was immediately dismantled by his own written words. The room became so quiet I could actually hear his mother's bracelet rattling against her wrist as her hand shook slightly. His sister was the first one to frown, confusion spreading across her face. Then the mediator asked a simple question in her professional tone. These messages seem to directly contradict what you just described. Can you explain the discrepancy? My husband tried to respond. He started and stopped. Stumbled over words. His forehead began to shine with sweat. For the very first time in our entire relationship, he wasn't the one controlling the narrative. For the first time, he couldn't rewrite reality to suit his version. And for the first time, I watched his parents look at him the exact same way they'd been looking at me for months, with doubt, with questions, with suspicion. The power in that room had completely shifted. The mediation meeting ended abruptly after that. His family left in uncomfortable silence, not making eye contact with anyone. That night, my husband didn't yell at me or try to argue. He just sat at our kitchen table, staring at me like he was looking at a complete stranger. How long have you been saving those messages? He finally asked, his voice quiet. I looked directly at him. From the very beginning, I said. Every single one. That was the simple truth. And for once in our marriage, the truth made him genuinely afraid instead of confident. He'd been so certain I wasn't paying attention. So sure I'd just accept his version of events. He was wrong. His reputation with his family never fully recovered after that meeting. Apologies came eventually, but they arrived too late and were never offered directly to me, just awkward, half-hearted attempts at rebuilding bridges they'd burned. But honestly, their apologies didn't matter much to me anymore. The silence between them told me everything I needed to know. The trust was completely gone. My husband tried desperately to rebuild his image, to craft new explanations, to rewrite the story one more time. But you can't argue with receipts. You can't debate screenshots. You can't reframe your own written words. He wasn't the patient victim anymore. He was just the documented liar. Those messages proved something important. They proved I wasn't crazy or unstable or overly emotional like they'd all claimed. I was accurate. I was paying attention. I was remembering things exactly as they happened. My husband had used his words as weapons against me, trying to cut away my confidence and reality. I had simply used those same words as evidence. His family learned the hardest lesson of all: loyalty and family bonds don't survive when confronted with actual proof. People think silence means submission or weakness or defeat. It doesn't. Silence is preparation. Silence is strategy. It's the sound of someone collecting evidence while everyone else assumes they've won. And when the truth finally speaks, it doesn't need to shout or make dramatic speeches. It just echoes. Those screenshots still exist on my phone. I probably don't need them anymore, but I keep them anyway. A reminder that the truth doesn't disappear just because someone tries to rewrite it.